Hi, Graham Healy back again. A lot of things been happening even today. The Healy Report. Go on to Rise Up Australia, Brisbane.com if you want to see a more in-depth view on various things. I'm just, of course, I'm trading stocks and shares, so basically more options at the moment. And this morning, I'll just give an example. The SPY, or the S&P 500, went up 52 points, directly up 52 points. That's plus 10.5%. You're looking at Goldman Sachs, which, you know, whatever happens with Goldman Sachs, the rest of the stock market basically, or especially the financial stock market, follows, up 54.65 from yesterday. That's plus 11.82%, and then I'd have a look at Tesla, up 50.34. Now this is Wednesday in New York, by the way, which is up 22.69%. Now, in 10 minutes today, the stock market gained $4 trillion. So all the fear-mongering by the Democrats over in the US about, oh, you know, Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Trump knows exactly what he's doing. And he's levelling the playing field. He's dismantling globalism. Well, that's what he's doing, and he's re-sovereigntising the US. And I'll keep this short this time. I've got a longer video, which I'll post on my website as well. But his strategy, I mean, I've read his book, you know, the Art of the Deal, or read part of it anyhow. And Trump's basically a gut instinct person. He doesn't necessarily get tied up in bureaucracy. He's been very successful all his life, and he's known for 30 to 40 years what's wrong with the business operations of the United States of America, because he's on the record of saying the same things that he's correcting now 30 years ago in various... Go onto YouTube and look up Donald Trump interviews 30 years ago or something like that, and you'll get those interviews. And he's just saying the same thing. The whole country, when he was referring to the United States, referring to the United States being ripped off back 30 years ago. And he said basically the United States was a piggy bank for the rest of the world and just printing money and clocking up debt. Well, Australia's done the same thing basically, because in the Whitlam / Bob Hawke / Paul Keating era, they just opened up the floodgates to the global banks into this economy, shut down the Commonwealth Bank, shut down our sovereignty, and opened us up to competition, i.e. globalism. Now, I'm not going to get that in great detail. If you don't know the details of how globalism has eroded this country over the last 30 years, you really need to, you know, be re-educated, reprogrammed or something. But basically, this is what happened, that Australia and the US, you know, we just follow the US most of the time, opened up our borders, we opened up our economy, we opened up everything to the global, so-called global market forces. And all that happened basically was this: we eroded our own sovereignty. That was it. Multinational companies came and went as they pleased in this country. They didn't pay tax, and not on their company profits. And then the next minute we've got foreign countries buying up Australian land. The biggest one would be China, you know, leasing out the port of Darwin and various other ports around Australia to the Communist Party. And, you know, when they talk about operating through business people from China, well, they're all controlled by the Communist Party, for goodness sake. You know, it's a bit like dealing with, you know, someone from the Nazi Party in Germany in the World War II. Of course, you might be dealing with the German businessmen at that particular time, referring back to World War II, but they're all controlled by that particular party. So, okay, so, you know, the globalism has got to the point where it's actually eroding our economy to the point where both sides of politics, Liberal and Labor, haven't got a clue what's going. They're clueless. I watched I couldn't watch all of it. I watched part of Dutton and Albo's so-called debate, and they're just talking around in circles. they're offering no solutions to anything. No solution to the national debt. No solution to the infrastructure problem that we've got. No solution to the flood of immigration over here simply to bolster up the false GDP figures. We can get into that in a... Well, the bottom line is with the GDP figures. The GDP is just a basket of goods, like groceries and things like that, but they don't include electricity and gas. So, very craftily, the government eliminates the most expensive item on that shopping list, which is your oil, basically electricity and gas. So, when they look at unemployment figures, when they look at GDP figures and they quote them to the public, it's actually double or triple. The real figures are double or triple because they bodgy up the so-called little basket that they use. And when you look at it, you go onto the various websites and you look at what the basket of goods they use for CPI. Gas, oil, and electricity is missing on that list. So you don't have to be real smart to figure it out. You don't have to be a global economist to figure out what they're doing. They're just fudging the figures and running up debt. And like last night on the so-called debate, the bit I watched, I think I watched 15 minutes. That was enough for me. I had to almost throw up after that. But the thing is, at the end of the day, when Dutton's talking about, well, we're going to do such and such a percentage on fuel excise, and then Albo says, well, we're going to rely on clean energy and hydropower and batteries. To run an industrial nation, you've got to be absolutely joking. If you're to stop the funding on renewables today, the whole thing would collapse. And apart from that, I'll tell you one thing I really don't like regarding these idiotic windmills is the wildlife they kill. You don't see any of the greenies jumping up and down about that. They used to hug the trees, remember? But now it's okay if they kill wildlife with these huge monstrosities that, we can get into that, but it's just an eyesore as far as I think they should all be removed and put in landfill somewhere. They're useless anyhow. So, bottom line is this. What Trump's doing is dismantling globalism, right? He knows what he's doing. He's pretty damn good at it. And all these people that were screaming panic know nothing about the stock market. The guys like Warren Buffett and that, they just sit around waiting for the dip, which occurred, the correction to occur, and then just buy more stocks. Simple as that. Even in my small scale of things, I waited until we got to the end or the bottom of the dip where everyone was panicking, what are we going to do next? We sell this, buy this. It's like this. If you've got a house and you own it, and you bought the house for 100 grand, say, right back in the day, then suddenly that house has escalated in value to $1 million, which they are today, plus, and then suddenly there's a correction in the price of housing and it goes back to 750 instead of what you bought for 100,000. Have you lost anything? No, because your asset is just still there. And if it goes down to zero, you still got your house. So in the stock market mentality, the name of the game is to wait till the S&P and what have you, they drop down to the lowest levels and then you buy. So today, this morning, because it's up early, I bought options on options on Telstra. I always think Telstra. So I bought options on Telstra because it's down to about $200. The shares are down to about $200 odd. They were $500 or $600 before, and the appreciation on that over the next 6 months will make me thousands. So that's how you do it. You don't panic. You just watch the pattern, and you listen to a couple of proper experts. You don't listen to the mainline media. Now, getting back to Trump and the tariffs. See, the tariffs really are a bargaining tool. You see, he's got the largest economy in the world. And if he doesn't deal now, and he doesn't realign all these other countries, the United States of America will be a third world country by about 2030 perhaps, 2030, 2040. But this is how it works. China, when they joined the World Trade Organization, and mind you, China sticks to no rules whatsoever. They steal intellectual property, so they don't never play fair. That was 2000. China had about 6% of the manufacturing global market. And it's projected forward, if they're allowed to continue the way they're continuing now, before Trump stepped in, they would have, by 2030, 45% of the global market. That'll make them a superpower. Trump knows this. So he's known about this for 30 years. And so he's pulled them up right now, today, since he got in, over the last couple of months, but he's certainly pulled them up with trades and everything. And now he's got 75 countries, at least, coming to the bargaining table. So look, oh no, we can't handle it. If you charge us the same tariffs we're charging you. It's just common sense. It's common business sense. Now, in the idiotic political scene in Australia, where you've got Albo and you've got Mr. Dutton, the trouble is that they, now just I'll focus on Dutton for a little while. He's a little bit better than Albo, but the point is this: he's still signed up to the Paris Accords. So he's still believing in the green scheme, which the Greens believe in, and Labor believes in. He still believes in the windmills and the same stuff that Albo's talking about. And he says, oh, well, we'll do nuclear. What about our coal-fired power stations? What about, hydro I agree with. But nuclear is a long-range term goal, which, it's going to take some time to get that fired up. And there is another alternative, which is like a shorter life nuclear, which is called thorium. Now, when I was a Senate candidate in 2019, we were pushing thorium back then, and thorium is it has a very low half-life, and Australia's full of thorium. So the Chinese already are actually starting thorium reactors in China. So they're running ahead at 100 miles an hour. And as far as the change in temperature and CO2 levels and all that, that is just complete BS of the nth degree. Nothing backs any of that up. So, the wokeism and Labor and Greens especially have taken us down a path of self-destruction. Now, we will follow what Donald Trump's doing for our own good. He's He's reinvigorating the economy of the US and re-sovereigntising them and disconnecting them from all the BS. That's the bottom line, including the Paris Accords, all those other stupid agreements, the World Health Organization, which is basically subtly controlled by China anyhow. So Australia has to do the same. The trouble is, at this point of the game, even on May 3rd, we haven't got the politicians in this country that what you'd call leaders. Now, I know for a fact that the Liberal Party, according to my sources, are already they want to get rid of Dutton as quickly as possible. They might allow him to get the Prime Ministership. He may, hung Parliament or something. As soon as that happens, they'll kick him out. You watch. Because what you've got to remember is that if you're the Prime Minister of the Liberal Party, you're only the face, you're only the front. You're actually the front to a big bureaucratic machine with all these power brokers in the background. And unfortunately, the Liberal Party at the moment is more woke than it is conservative. So it really needs to be purged well and truly. So Dutton's not the answer, unfortunately. So what is the answer? At this stage of the game, which will be stage 1, it'll be the independent senators or the minor parties that are the answer. So, such as Gerard Rennick, such as Dr. William Bay, such as Malcolm Roberts, and, Babette, and maybe the Trumpet of Patriots. But I'm thinking, even though, I love what Clive Palmer's done in supporting all the COVID agendas and all what have you, I think the Trumpet of Patriots will cause disruption. And they may cause a flow of votes from one way to the other. And of course, Clive has got the finances to back up the carpet bombing of advertising. So he'll bring a certain amount of realistic awareness to the public. But you know, the average Joe blogs out there is just wondering, you know, where the next dollar's coming from. So they'll be just seeing what's on offer, the majority. But I think my feeling is that the public are really, through social media actually, through, you know, Joe Rogan, all these sort of characters that are pushing social media outlets, and what Trump's done in the US, especially that administration, you know, that Trump's got around him. They're top, really top people. And I always listen to Senator Kennedy, not Robert Kennedy Jr. I listen to him as well, but Senator Kennedy, I think he's a Texas senator. I mean, I get a real good laugh how he just grills people and crucifies people, or especially the Democrats, and just makes them out how stupid and how just complete fools they are in when you're talking about common sense or doing the right thing by people, right thing by families, but Christian values and all the rest of it. So I'll finish it off with this. So come May, and I've said this before, but I'm more convinced more than ever that May will just be stage one. It'll be a very, very close, because there's not much difference between Albo and Dutton, unfortunately. Maybe the haircut, that's about it. But there's no solutions to Australia's sovereignty problem. Nothing. They're talking the same language, right? So, who's got solutions to the problems? Well, I certainly have to put a tick in the box for Senator Rennick regarding financial constitutional let's say, transformation of the Australian economy. Rennick's got the plan. There's no question about that. I'm not saying that Senator Roberts hasn't got good plans as well. He has. But I know Rennick. I know both these guys personally. And I'd love to see Senator Rennick implement his what I call his blueprint for the recovery of the Australian financial scene. Also, I'd like to see who I support personally and will be supporting this weekend, actually, Dr. William Bay, the Great Australia Party. I'd like to see him get into the Senate and rattle a few cages there. He's got the intelligence to do it. He's been through hell with the COVID thing and APRA deregistering him and all that sort of stuff, fought him in the Supreme Court, won. And as his famous saying is, we will win, and he keeps winning. Very smart guy. You know, he's a laugh a minute too. He's got a very quick wit. So we'll be catching up with him this weekend, and there'll be a dinner also supporting Dr. William Bay this weekend at the Yumcha restaurant. Go on to riseupaustralia.brisbane.com, and just, it's not necessarily, all we're doing is asking, it's a fundraiser, so $30 a head for the fundraisers, you know, that's very affordable. And just, you know, by taking a fundraising ticket out, you're automatically come over to the restaurant and just pay for your own meal there. And then Dr. Bay is I think he's bringing Cafe Locked Out and a few other dignitaries in the freedom movement to the dinner, and we'll all be able to collaborate there and talk about what's going to happen next. Now, I'll just finish on this. Number one, Trump knows what he's doing. Two, this tariff so-called war that the Democrats and all the fake news are just fear-mongering about, oh God, the world's coming to an end. You'll see, you know, it's happening now, happened today. There was 4 trillion went back onto the stock market, and everything's rising up again. But you will see it'll be an exponential growth over the next 6 months because of Trump's policies. Then Australia will follow if we get a decent leader. There isn't one in the two parties at the moment. I've discussed who I think the real leader of the Liberal Party is, but that won't happen this election. So this election, I think we'll just get the stage one, and it'll be extremely hung parliament. Hopefully we'll get Dr. Bay, Gerard Rennick and Malcolm Roberts into the Senate, and they can rattle a cage. Also Craig Kelly, want him in the Senate as well. You get those 4 into the Senate as independents, you're going to get some cage rattling going on. And then we can consolidate the minor parties from there on in, because I think we'll either have a double dissolution, or we'll have a referendum, or we'll have a double dissolution and a referendum in 6 months' time after May 3rd. So I reckon we're in for another round of elections brought upon us because of the situation, because of the global situation, because of the threat of China, because of tariffs, because of a whole lot of other miscellaneous things. It'll bring it to a head around about October, November this year. I'm looking forward to it. And I think, Clive, with the Trumpeter Patriots, I think that they will gain momentum in what they're doing in round two. I don't see them doing too much in round one, apart from carpet bombing the advertising space. But the policies, when you listen to Clive, he talks about the policies, quite good. He knows what he's talking about. And he's one policy that stuck out in mind when he was talking about it the other day was just whack a 15% tariff on China for iron ore. And you would, as Clive said, in 12 months you'd pay off Australia's debt. There you go. It wouldn't make any difference to China. They couldn't care less. 15% is nothing to them, but it's a lot to us. So the trouble is, over the years, you've had people who are not businessmen negotiating with the Communist Party and all that. And then I see in the media today that Albo's shaking hands with Xi Jinping and, don't worry, we'll look after you if Trump's not going to look after you, Xi Jinping. Albo, you're a clown. So anyway, that's it. That's over. It's over for me, and we'll catch up to you very shortly. And remember, this Sunday we've got the Dr. Bay fundraiser at the Yumcha restaurant at Indooroopilly. Go on to riseupaustraliabrisbane.com and you'll see the link there. Graham Healy, Healy the Report. God bless you all. Have a great day. And remember, Trump is the man.